They thought burying my mother meant burying the truth. They forgot she taught me to measure twice, cut once. The frozen ground cracked under our boots at the graveside. January wind cutting through bare maples. Snow dusting the casket as they lowered her down. Cold metal handles under my gloves. Diesel exhaust from Dale's new truck idling by the cemetery gate, louder than the pastor's prayer. Smell of damp wool coats and weak coffee from the church basement thermoses nobody wanted to drink. At the kitchen table afterward, the attorney read the will. Same table where mother kneaded bread for 50 years. Dale interrupted before the man finished the second paragraph. Russ, you sure you can handle 240 acres alone? My brother's voice carried concern, the way a hawk carries a field mouse. Mom worried about your memory. The church ladies exchanged glances. Laura patted my hand, her touch cold, rehearsed. The attorney mentioned a 6-month mediation clause. Dale checked his watch, smiled. I said nothing. Just tightened my grip on Mother's field notebook in my coat pocket, her handwriting visible through the worn cover. Precision matters. Through the window, I watched Dale and Laura by his truck afterward, laughing, her hand on his arm, lingering too long. Why had Mother included that clause? What was that look between them? The next morning, I spread the estate documents across that same kitchen table. Laura brought coffee, too sweet the way she'd been making it lately, like I couldn't taste the difference. Outside, the January wind rattled the storm windows. The percolator burbled its last on the stove, that familiar sound that used to mean comfort. Dale arrived before I'd finished my first cup, didn't knock. Just walked in, smelling of cologne and cigar smoke, his boots tracking slush across Mother's clean floor. Thought I'd help you sort through the paperwork, he said, pulling out a chair. The metal legs scraped against linoleum. Some of this stuff needs signatures pretty quick. Time sensitive, you know? I looked at him over my reading glasses. What's time sensitive about a will that's been notarized for 3 years? Laura set down her teacup, Earl, gray, always at 9:30 sharp, and slid a folder across the table. Just routine estate transfers, honey. Nothing complicated? The attorney said it's better to get them filed now, before the county office gets backed up. Her pen appeared in her hand, clicked twice. Silver, expensive. Not the drugstore kind she usually carried. Which forms? I asked. Property easement updates. Mineral rights clarification. Dale's finger tapped each page. Mom wanted everything current. You remember her saying that, right? I didn't remember her saying that. I remembered her saying check everything twice and never sign what you don't understand. The pen hovered over the signature line. Laura's smile didn't reach her eyes. Let me read them first, I said. Russ, Dale's voice shifted, that edge coming through. We're just trying to help. Unless you think your own brother would, I'll read them first. Laura collected the papers, her movements sharp now. Fine, but the attorney needs them by Friday, or we'll have to refile. More fees, more delays. After they left, I sat in the quiet. The wood stove ticked as it cooled. I pulled out Mother's field notebook, flipped through pages of her careful handwriting. Weather observations. Planning dates, fence repairs, 50 years of precision. On the last page, dated 2 weeks before she died, R. Trust the paper trail. Check county records. PM. Patsy Nguyen, Mother's attorney. The county records office smelled like old paper and floor wax. The basement where they kept the survey documents was colder than outside, my breath visible under the fluorescent lights. The clerk was young, bored, her fingers flying across a keyboard that clicked like insect legs. Property surveys for the Holloway homestead, I said. Last 5 years. She pulled up the records, printed them without looking at me. The warm paper curled in my hands as I spread the pages across a wooden table scarred with decades of scratches. Mother's original survey from 1974. Clean, precise lines. My father's signature as witness. The property boundaries matched what I'd walked my whole life. The creek to the east, the county road to the west, the old stone markers my grandfather set in 1943, then the new one, filed 8 months ago. The boundaries had shifted. Someone had subdivided the northeast 40 acres, created a new plat, marked it ready for development. My signature at the bottom, dated March 15th. I'd been in Columbus that week, medical appointment. Laura drove me, said she'd handle the farm for those 2 days. Excuse me. My voice sounded strange in the quiet basement. This permit. Who filed it? The clerk barely glanced up. Says right there, Russell Holloway. That's you, isn't it? Who witnessed the signature? She leaned over, squinted. Lorraine Holloway. Your wife? The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. Somewhere in the building, a phone rang. This was filed 3 months before my mother passed, I said. I didn't sign this. The clerk's boredom evaporated. She looked at the paper, then at me, then back at the paper, lowered her voice. Sir, if there's a problem with the signature, you need to talk to the county attorney. That's fraud. Who requested the subdivision permit? Her fingers clicked across the keyboard again. Dale Holloway. Filed the request, paid the fees, had it approved within 30 days. Pretty fast, actually. Usually takes 6 months. She paused. He listed you as co-owner. Said you were elderly, and he was helping manage the estate transition. Elderly. I was 67. Still ran a tractor. Still split my own firewood. Can I get copies of everything? I asked. The permit, the approval forms, all of it. She printed them. Wouldn't meet my eyes as she handed them over. Walking back to my truck, the January cold bit through my coat. The papers in my hand felt heavier than they should. Ice cracked under my boots in the courthouse parking lot. Dale's chrome bumper flashed in my rearview mirror as I pulled onto Main Street. 2 cars back, following at exactly the speed limit. He'd been waiting, watching. The question wasn't why Mother included that mediation clause anymore. The question was what else had she known that I didn't. Sunday morning, the Methodist church basement smelled like burnt coffee and lemon furniture polish. I'd been coming to this fellowship hall for 60 years. Same folding tables, same industrial carpet worn thin by decades of potlucks and AA meetings. The coffee hour after service used to be something I looked forward to. Used to be. I poured myself a cup from the big silver urn, the weak brew barely hot enough to steam. Around me, the usual clusters of conversation. The Hendersons discussing their grandson's college acceptance. Wade Kittredge complaining about parts prices for farm equipment. The quilting circle ladies near the window, their voices carrying in that particular way women have when they want to be overheard. Poor Russ, one of them said. Mavis Teller, I think. 240 acres is an awful lot for one man his age. And Laura told me he forgot to pay the electric bill last month. That was Jean Kroger. She had to drive into town and handle it herself. I hadn't forgotten the electric bill. I'd paid it online like I had for the past 10 years. But I stood there holding my coffee, didn't correct them. My mother went like that. Mavis again, her voice dropping to a whisper that somehow got louder. Little things first. Then one day she left the stove on and nearly burned the house down. The burnt coffee taste turned bitter in my mouth. Reverend Birch appeared at my elbow, his hand heavy on my shoulder. He was 74, older than me, but he touched me like I was the fragile one. Russell, good to see you in the Lord's house. How are you managing? Managing fine, Clayton. And if you need anything, counseling, help with decisions, the church is here. His voice carried that pastoral concern, but his eyes were already scanning the room for the next person who needed saving. Your brother mentioned you might benefit from some guidance during this difficult time. My brother mentioned. The words settled in my chest like cold stones. I appreciate that, I said. Actually, the Reverend's grip tightened slightly. Dale suggested I might offer to mediate between you and him. About the property, sometimes family needs neutral ground to discuss sensitive matters. Sensitive matters, like my own competence, like whether I should be making my own decisions. That's thoughtful, I said. I'll consider it. What I considered was that Dale had already gotten to the Reverend. Already started the narrative. Poor Russ, declining, needs help. Across the room, Dale stood with a cluster of farmers, his laugh too loud, his hand gestures too big. Performing. I caught the words, can't keep up, and best thing for him before the conversation shifted. Several men glanced my way, pity in their eyes. I set my coffee down and left. The winter sun outside was bright enough to hurt, reflecting off yesterday's snow. My truck started on the third try, the old engine coughing in the cold. The attorney's office was overheated, the radiator clanking and hissing. Dale was already there when I arrived, sitting in one of the leather chairs like he owned the place. The attorney, Morrison, young guy, maybe 40, looked uncomfortable. Mr. Holloway, thank you for coming in. He gestured to the empty chair. Your brother had some concerns he wanted to discuss. Concerns about what? Dale leaned forward, elbows on his knees. That concerned brother posture he'd perfected. About the property, Russ. About your ability to maintain it. I've been talking to some potential buyers. Buyers. Just exploring options. Good offers. Really good. There's a development group out of Columbus, interested in the Northeast 40, residential lots. They're ready to close fast, the Northeast 40. The same 40 acres someone had already subdivided on a forged permit. I'm not selling, I said. Morrison cleared his throat. Holloway, Russell, your mother's will includes a 6-month mediation requirement before any estate decisions can be finalized. That period began at her death. You can't actually sell, or refuse to sell, until that mediation concludes or the 6 months expire. And I know what the will says. Then you know that June 15th is the deadline. Dale pulled out a folder, slid it across the desk. These buyers won't wait that long. They need an answer by March. That's why I'm proposing we start the mediation now, work through this reasonably, come to an agreement that benefits everyone. Yeah, inside the folder were property appraisals, development proposals, purchase offers, all dated within the last 2 weeks, all prepared before Mother was even buried. You had this ready, I said. I've been planning ahead. Yes, someone has to. Dale's voice hardened. Mom knew you couldn't handle this alone. That's why she put in the mediation clause. She wanted me involved in the decision. She wanted time, I said. 6 months. That's what she wanted. Time for what? Dale spread his hands. Time for the property value to drop? Time for you to run it further into the ground. Russ, I'm trying to help you before you can't make decisions for yourself anymore. There it was, out loud now. The threat wrapped in family concern. Morrison looked at his desk, at the wall, anywhere but at us. The mediation is mandatory. I can arrange for Reverend Birch to facilitate, if that's acceptable to both parties. Fine. Dale stood up. Let's get this started. Because come June, one way or another, this gets resolved. He leaned close as he passed my chair, his voice dropping. We're family, Russ. Let me help you before you can't decide for yourself. The cologne and cigar smoke followed him out. Morrison started organizing papers, the sound too loud, in the quiet office. Through the window, I watched Dale climb into his truck, saw him pull out his phone, text someone, smile. The mediation wasn't about compromise. It was about running out the clock until they could paint me as incompetent. Until the 6 months passed and Dale could force a sale anyway. Unless I had proof before then, real proof. The kind that couldn't be explained away as an old man's confused memory. Patsy Nguyen's law office sat above the hardware store on Main Street, up a narrow flight of stairs that smelled like sawdust and motor oil from below. I'd known Patsy since she was 8 years old. Her family had come over in '75, Vietnamese refugees, and Mother had helped them find housing, co-signed their first lease when nobody else would. Patsy put herself through law school, working nights at the hospital. Mother attended her graduation, brought flowers. The office was small, efficient. File cabinets along one wall, a desk buried under yellow legal pads covered in her neat handwriting. The radiator knocked and hissed, fighting the February cold seeping through the old windows. Russell, she stood when I entered, gestured to a chair. I've been expecting you. Your mother told you I'd come? She told me a lot of things. Patsy pulled a file from her desk drawer. Sit down, we need to talk. I sat. The chair creaked under me. Outside the window, Main Street was quiet. Monday afternoon, most shops closed or empty. The hardware store bell chimed below as someone entered. Patsy opened the file. Inside were photocopies of documents. She pulled out one sheet, slid it across the desk. Power of attorney forms. Filed with the county clerk 3 weeks ago. Your signature. I looked at the paper. Same handwriting as the survey permit. Almost right, but not quite. The R in Russell too round. The tail on the Y in Holloway too short. I didn't sign this, I said. I know. She pulled out another sheet. This one was filed 2 weeks ago. Also your signature. This one gives Lorraine full medical decision-making authority. My hands went cold. When was I supposed to have signed these? According to the notary stamp, January 23rd. Were you home that day? I pulled out Mother's field notebook, flipped back through the pages to my own entries I'd started keeping. January 23rd. I was here, in town, at the feed store all morning, then had lunch at the diner. Wade Kittredge was there. We talked about tractor parts for an hour. Good. Keep that notebook close. Time stamps matter. Patsy leaned back in her chair. The leather squeaked. Russell, your mother knew this was coming. Not the details, but the pattern. She came to me 6 months before she died and updated her will. That mediation clause, she put it in specifically to slow Dale down. And slow him down from what? From doing exactly what he's doing now. She tapped the power of attorney forms. She knew he'd go after the property the minute she was gone. Knew he'd try to paint you as incompetent, unable to manage. The 6-month mediation requirement was her way of buying you time. Time to gather evidence. Time to protect yourself. The radiator knocked 3 times. Down on Main Street, a truck drove past, its tire chains rattling on the icy pavement. She knew, I said. For 6 months, she knew and didn't tell me. She was protecting you, and she left you this. Patsy pulled an envelope from the file. Cream-colored, expensive paper. My name on the front in Mother's handwriting. I took it. The paper felt heavy, official. I turned it over, saw the seal unbroken. She said not to give it to you until you were ready, Patsy said. I think you're ready now. I wasn't sure I was ready, but I broke the seal anyway. Inside, 2 pages in Mother's careful script, dated August 15th, 4 months before she died. Russell, if you're reading this, you've already discovered what Dale and Lorraine have planned. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you directly. You would have tried to fix it, tried to talk to them, tried to make them see reason, their past reason. I've known about Dale for years. Small things at first. Money missing from my purse, tools disappearing from the barn. That loan he said I co-signed but I never did. He learned early that charm buys forgiveness. He never learned the difference between forgiveness and enablement. Lorraine is worse, smarter, more patient. She's been planning this since your father died and left the farm to you instead of splitting it. She sees it as money she's owed, money she's waited 40 years to collect. Don't confront them directly. Document everything. Check the county records. I suspect Dale's already filed paperwork in your name. Check the barn safe. The code is Maura's birthday, month, day, year. Inside, you'll find what you need. Trust Patsy. Trust Wade. Trust yourself. You're stronger than they think, stronger than you think. The land remembers who loved it. Make sure it remembers you. M. I read it twice. The words didn't change. My hands shook holding the paper. The barn safe, I said. I didn't know there was a barn safe. And your mother was thorough. Patsy pulled out her yellow legal pad, wrote something down. Go home. Check the safe. Whatever's in there, photograph it, bring me copies. Don't remove the originals. If this goes to court, we need chain of custody. Court. If the mediation fails, if they push for competency hearings. She met my eyes. Russell, they're building a case. The forged signatures, the power of attorney, the subdivision permit, they're setting up a pattern. Old man who can't manage, can't remember, can't be trusted with his own affairs. We need to build a better case. One that proves they're the ones who can't be trusted. I folded Mother's letter carefully, put it back in the envelope. The paper rustled loud in the quiet office. What if I can't prove it? I asked. What if it's just my word against theirs? Patsy smiled. It wasn't a pleasant smile. It was the smile of someone who'd fought bureaucracy and won. Then we make sure it's not just your word. We make sure we have evidence they can't explain away. She pulled out a business card, wrote a number on the back. This is a friend of mine, security consultant. He can help you with documentation. Call him today. I took the card. The number was written in the same neat hand as her legal pad notes. Outside, the February wind picked up, rattling the old window glass. The hardware store bell chimed again below. Someone laughed, high, false, familiar. Through the window, I saw Lorraine on the sidewalk, talking to Jean Kroger from church, saw her shake her head, saw Jean pat her arm in sympathy, heard the word difficult drift up through the old walls. They were already spreading the story, already building their narrative. Time to build mine. Dale's equipment dealership sat on the edge of town, where the last streetlight ended and farmland began, chrome and glass showroom facing the highway, all polish and promise. Behind it, the muddy backlots where the trade-ins rusted, where the engines didn't start, where Dale's real business lived. I pulled in Tuesday afternoon. The showroom door chimed as I entered. Some synthetic bell sound piped through speakers, cheerful and fake. The floor was polished concrete that showed every footprint. Muzak played overhead, something bland and forgettable. Dale emerged from his office, all smiles. Russ, didn't expect to see you here. Thought we should talk, brother to brother. His smile shifted, became more genuine, predatory. Sure, come on back. His office smelled like leather and cigars, framed photos on the walls, Dale shaking hands with customers, Dale at Chamber of Commerce dinners, Dale receiving some business award. Not a single photo of family, not one of mother. I stayed standing. The development group from Columbus, how long have you been talking to them? Few months. They're serious buyers, Russ. Real money. He leaned against his desk, casual. I'm trying to help you here. Get you set up somewhere easier, maybe one of those nice senior communities in town. You wouldn't have to worry about plowing, about repairs, about what? About keeping up. He said it gently, kindly, the way you'd talk to a child. You're not getting younger. None of us are. But that property, it's too much for one person. Mom knew it. That's why she wanted me involved. Wade Kittredge appeared in the doorway, grease-stained coveralls holding a carburetor. Dale, that part you ordered. He saw me. Stopped. Sorry, didn't know you had company. It's fine. Dale's voice cooled. What about the part? Still hasn't come in. 3rd week now. Wade's eyes flicked between us. Customer's getting pretty upset. Tell him it's on back order. Not my fault if the manufacturer can't deliver. Dale turned back to me, dismissing Wade with body language alone. But Wade lingered in the doorway. I saw it in his face. That look of a man who'd heard this excuse before. The buyers need an answer by Friday, Dale said. Sign the mediation agreement, commit to the sale, and this all goes smooth. Easy transition. And if I don't? Dale's smile faded. He moved to close the office door, shutting Wade out. The latch clicked with finality. When he turned back, something had changed in his face. The charm dropped like a mask. Then we do it the other way. His voice was quiet now, conversational. Dr. Morrison, you know him? Family practice, been treating you for what? 20 years? He'd be happy to do like a competency evaluation as a favor to the family. Guy's buried in malpractice insurance premiums. He understands the value of professional courtesy. My chest tightened. You're threatening me. I'm offering you a choice. Dale crossed to the window, looked out at his lots. Sign by Friday, or I call Morrison Monday morning. He does the evaluation, finds that you're experiencing age-related cognitive decline, can't safely manage complex financial decisions, maybe can't safely live alone. Patsy would fight it. Patsy's one lawyer in a county office. I've got connections. I've got Morrison's testimony. I've got church ladies who'll swear you've been forgetting things, getting confused. He turned back. I've got Laura, who'll testify that she's been covering for you for months, paying bills you forgot, reminding you to take your medication, finding you wandering around the property at night, disoriented. Each word landed like a fist. He'd been planning this. Every piece in place. You're my brother, I said, and you're the brother who got everything. Something ugly flickered across his face. Dad left you the farm, Mom died in your house, you got the land, the legacy, the whole golden child treatment. I got a handshake, and a Dale will find his own way. Well, I found my way. And it ends with what should have been mine all along. The Muzak played on overhead. Outside, a truck pulled up to the back lots, its exhaust rattling in the cold. Friday, Dale said. 5 o'clock. Sign the mediation agreement at Morrison's office, or Monday morning you're getting evaluated. Your choice, Russ. The easy way or the hard way. But either way, I'm getting what's owed to me. I left without answering. Wade was in the lot, bent over an engine, but he straightened as I passed. Our eyes met for just a moment. He nodded once. Slight. Barely there. I installed the camera that night. Small thing, size of a smoke detector that mounted in the corner of my home office. The security consultant Patsy recommended had walked me through it. Wireless, motion-activated, feeds to an app on my phone. I positioned it to capture the desk where I kept the estate documents, the file cabinet where I stored Mother's papers. 2 days later, it caught them. I was at the feed store, buying seed for spring planting. My phone buzzed with the motion alert. I pulled up the app in my truck, parked behind the co-op where nobody could see my screen. The footage was crystal clear. Laura entered first, her 3 o'clock tea still steaming in her hand. Earl Grey, I could smell it through memory. She set it down carefully on my desk, on top of my papers, moisture ring forming, and opened the file cabinet. Dale came in 30 seconds later. No knock, no hesitation. Like they'd done this before. How much longer? Dale's voice came through the phone speaker. I turned the volume down, pressed the phone close to my ear. As long as it takes. Laura pulled out a folder. Mother's original will. He's being stubborn. Morrison can do the evaluation Monday. Force his hand. I don't want to force it. Laura's voice was cold, precise, each word calculated. I want him to sign willingly. Looks better. Less room for Patsy to challenge it later. And if he doesn't sign by Friday, then we accelerate the timeline. And she pulled out forms I'd never seen before, set them on the desk. I've already filled out the commitment papers. Medical power of attorney plus Morrison's evaluation equals involuntary placement. Once he's in Meadowview, the power of attorney kicks in automatically. Meadowview, the nursing home outside Columbus. The place where Mother's friend Martha had died last year, alone, because her family couldn't afford the bills but couldn't get her released. How long before the property transfers? Dale asked. 30 days after placement. State law requires a cooling-off period. But with Morrison's testimony and my documentation of his decline, no judge will block it. Laura picked up her tea, sipped, smiled. Once he's placed, we split it 60-40 like we agreed. You handle the sale, I handle the paperwork. Clean? 60-40. You sure you did the hard part? Dale leaned against the desk. I'm the one who lined up the buyers? I'm the one who... You're the one who gets to play concerned brother while I play exhausted caretaker. Her voice cut like ice. You're the face, Dale. I'm the brain. Stick to the script. Dale was quiet for a moment, then... What about Maura? She hasn't been home in 20 years. She won't care. And if Russ tries to call her? His phone goes through the house line. I'll know. Laura set down her tea, pulled out a pen, my pen, from the desk drawer. Now watch. This is how you forge his signature. The R curves left, not right. The H connects low. You've been doing it wrong. She bent over the commitment papers, started signing my name. My hands shook holding the phone. The feed store parking lot spun around me. I watched my wife. 40 years. 40 years I'd loved her. Practice erasing me from my own life. There. She held up the paper, admiring her work. Perfect. Once Morrison signs off Monday, these go to the county. By Wednesday, Russ Holloway is awarded the state. By March, the property's in probate. By April, we're rich. Dale laughed, low, satisfied. The old fool never saw it coming. That's because we taught him not to. Laura gathered the papers, returned them to the file. 40 years of being the quiet, supportive wife. Making him feel smart, making him feel capable, all while documenting every time he forgot an appointment, every time he left a light on, every little thing that builds the narrative. She closed the cabinet. Never underestimate the power of a patient woman, Dale. They left together. Dale's hand on her lower back, possessive, familiar. The door closed behind them. I sat in my truck for 20 minutes, watching that footage again and again, the casual cruelty, the practiced deception, the sheer calculation. Laura wasn't Dale's accomplice. Dale was hers, 40 years. She'd been planning this for 40 years. Mother's grave sat on the hill behind the Methodist church, under the big oak that shaded the oldest headstones. I drove there Thursday morning, the sky gray and low, threatening snow that wouldn't come. The ground was still frozen, but crocuses were pushing up near the fence line, purple and yellow, stubborn against the cold. I brought daffodil bulbs, Mother's favorite, knelt there in the dead grass with my trowel, breaking through the frost to plant them. The work made my knees ache, my hands stiff in the cold, but it felt right, necessary, like I was keeping a promise I'd made without words. The wind moved through the oak branches overhead, creaking and sighing. A crow called from somewhere distant. I could smell the earth, cold, mineral, waiting for spring. You knew, I said to the stone. You knew, and you tried to warn me. The envelope Patsy had given me was in my coat pocket. I pulled it out, read the letter again in the weak February light. Checked the barn safe. The code is Maura's birthday. Maura, my daughter, 40 years old now, an architect in Chicago. I hadn't spoken to her in 3 years, hadn't seen her in 5. She'd left after high school, angry about something I'd never fully understood, and the distance had just grown. Christmas cards, occasional emails, the shape of a relationship without its substance. Her birthday, May 7th, 1985. 5/7/85. I finished planting the bulbs, patted the soil down with hands that had lost most of their feeling. Come April, they'd bloom, yellow and bright. Mother would have liked that. I'll fix this, I told her. I'll make it right. The crow called again, closer now. I stood, my knees protesting, and walked back to my truck. Drove home through streets I'd known my whole life, past houses where people I'd grown up with still lived, and felt like a stranger in my own town. The barn smelled like old hay and motor oil and 50 years of weather. I'd been coming here since I was 6 years old, knew every beam, every shadow, but I'd never known about the safe. I found it behind a loose panel in the tack room, hidden on the wall where my grandfather had built a false cabinet. The panel came away easy. Mother must have opened it recently. The safe was small, industrial, the kind banks used to sell for home use. Black metal, combination dial worn smooth by decades of fingers. 5/7/85. The lock clicked. The door swung open on hinges that moved silent, well-oiled. Inside, a stack of documents, photos, a cassette tape in a plastic case labeled in Mother's handwriting, DH, May 1998. I pulled everything out carefully, spread it on the workbench where light from the dusty window could reach. The first photo was from 1997, Dale at the county clerk's office, visible through the window, signing something. Mother must have taken it from outside. Telephoto lens catching the details. The next photo showed the document, a deed transfer, father's name forged at the bottom, more photos, more documents, a pattern emerging like a photograph in developer fluid. Dale had been doing this for years. Small thefts, forged signatures on equipment loans, property liens, bank transfers. Mother had documented all of it, never confronting him, just collecting evidence like a patient angler collecting flies. The cassette tape rattled in my hand. I hadn't owned a tape player in 15 years, but there was an old boombox in the workshop, covered in dust and paint speckles. I wiped it clean, plugged it in. The cord sparked once before the power light came on. I slid the tape in, pressed play, static, then voices. Dale, can't believe you're bringing this up now. He's Mother. Because I found the paperwork, Dale. Your father never signed that equipment loan. That's your signature, not his. Dale. He told me to. He was too sick to drive to the bank. Mother. He was in Columbus that day, at the cancer center. I drove him. You forged his name and took out $50,000 in his name, and when the loan went bad, it went on his credit. A long pause, footsteps, the sound of a chair scraping. Dale, what are you going to do about it? Mother, nothing, yet. But I'm keeping this recording, and if you ever touch Russell's inheritance, if you ever try to take what's his, I'll make sure everyone knows what you really are. Dale's laugh, low, mean. You won't do anything. You never do. You'll forgive me like always, Mom, because that's what you do. That's what makes you weak. The tape ended, the workshop filled with silence. I stood there, holding that cassette like it might dissolve. Mother hadn't been weak, she'd been strategic, building a case, brick by brick, knowing someday I'd need it. My phone buzzed. Text from Laura. Dinner at 6. Don't be late. I photographed every document, every photo. Downloaded the cassette to my laptop. Using an old cable I found in a drawer. Sent everything to Patsy with a message. Evidence. More coming. Put the originals back in the safe. Locked it. Replaced the panel. When I walked out of the barn, the sky had cleared. Weak sunlight touched the fields, glinting off the last patches of snow. The air smelled different. Not warm yet, but not winter anymore either. Something was shifting. In the season. In me. Friday was tomorrow. Dale's deadline. Time to make a choice. I already knew which one I was making. The diner on Friday morning smelled like bacon grease and burnt toast. Same smell it had carried for 40 years, since before the highway bypass redirected traffic away from Main Street. Wade Kittredge sat at the counter, working through a plate of eggs and hash browns. His hands still stained with motor oil despite the washing. I slid onto the stool beside him. The vinyl seat cracked under me, duct tape holding the worst splits together. The coffee the waitress poured was strong enough to strip paint. "Russ." Wade nodded, kept eating. Didn't look at me directly, but his shoulders shifted, making space for conversation. "Your part ever come in?" I asked. "The one Dale ordered?" Wade's fork paused halfway to his mouth. Set it down carefully. "No, third time he's done that to me. Orders a part, takes my deposit, part never shows. But he keeps the money. You ever report it?" "To who?" "Dale's on the Chamber of Commerce. Dale's got the only equipment dealership in 50 miles. You report Dale, suddenly your tractor needs parts you can't get anywhere else." Wade finally looked at me. "You learn to eat the cost and move on." The waitress refilled my cup without asking. The diner was half empty, usual Friday crowd, farmers finishing breakfast before heading to their fields. At a corner booth, I saw Gene Kroger and Mavis Teller, heads bent together over their plates, watched them glance my way, then lean closer to whisper. They're saying things about you," Wade said quietly. "Around town, about your memory, about you getting confused." "I know. It's bullshit." He said it flat, matter of fact. Took a sip of coffee. "My dad went like that. Real dementia. You don't have that look. You've got the look of a man whose family's screwing him." Something loosened in my chest. First person in 2 weeks who'd said it out loud. "Dale ever do this to anyone else?" I asked. Wade was quiet for a moment. The grill sizzled behind the counter. Someone dropped coins in the jukebox, and Patsy Cline started singing about falling to pieces. 5 years ago, Wade said. "Dale sold me a used combine, said it was in perfect condition. Took it out first harvest, transmission seized up, $8,000 in repairs. I went back to complain. He said I must have abused it. Produced paperwork showing I'd signed a waiver acknowledging pre-existing damage." Wade's jaw tightened. "I never signed any waiver, but there was my signature. Perfect." "You keep the paperwork?" "Burned it. I was so angry I just wanted it gone." He pushed his plate away. "Wish I hadn't now. Wish I'd known then what I know now, that it wasn't just me." At the corner booth, Gene Kroger's voice rose slightly. Can't even remember to pay his bills. Wade's hand tightened on his coffee cup. "You got proof?" he asked quietly. "Real proof?" "I'm working on it. Work faster." He pulled out his wallet, left cash on the counter, stood. "Dale came by the shop yesterday. Told everyone there you'd be signing some papers today. Said you were finally seeing reason. Said by next week you'd be somewhere you could get proper care." Wade met my eyes. "He's not waiting anymore, Russ. Whatever you're planning, it needs to happen soon." He left. The door chimed behind him. At the corner booth, the church ladies watched him go, then looked at me. Mavis whispered something. Gene nodded. I finished my coffee alone. It had gone cold. The camera caught them again that afternoon. I was at the hardware store, buying fence staples I didn't need, just to be seen, to be out of the house. My phone buzzed with the motion alert. I stepped into the parking lot, pulled up the feed. Laura in my office again, but this time Dale wasn't there. Just her, moving through my space like she owned it. She opened the file cabinet, pulled out documents, went to my desk, sat in my chair, pulled out her phone, made a call. The audio came through clearly. She'd left her tea on the desk again, steam rising, and the microphone picked up every word. "Dale, it's me." Pause. "No, he's not here." I made sure. Another pause. "Listen to me. Today's Friday. If he doesn't sign at Morrison's office by 5, we move forward with the evaluation Monday, like we planned. But I need you to do something first." She opened my desk drawer, pulled out my checkbook. "I need you to talk to Morrison again. Make sure he understands what we need in the evaluation report. Specific language, unable to manage financial affairs, requires supervised care, poses a danger to himself if left alone. Can you do that?" She was writing in the checkbook, making entries in my handwriting, almost my handwriting, close enough that a bank teller wouldn't question it. "Good. And Dale?" Her voice softened, became almost intimate. "After this is done, after we have the money, We're leaving. Both of us. Florida, like we talked about. Away from this frozen shithole. Away from 40 years of pretending. She laughed, low and satisfied. You'll get your dealership somewhere warm. I'll get my condo, on the beach. We'll finally get to be together without hiding. The words landed like ice water. Together. Without hiding. How long? How long had they been more than conspirators? The old fool never suspected, she continued. 40 years of the dutiful wife. Making his coffee, ironing his shirts, smiling at church while planning his exit. She paused, listening. Yes, I know you're impatient. But we do this right, clean, no mistakes. No one can question my grief when poor Russell has to be placed for his own safety. Another pause. I love you too. See you at 5. She hung up, sat there in my chair for a long moment, looking around my office. My books, my father's old desk lamp, mother's photograph on the wall. 40 years, she said to the empty room, to herself. To the camera she didn't know was there. 40 years pretending to love a boring, simple man. But God, the payoff's going to be sweet. She stood, smoothed her skirt, put everything back exactly as she'd found it, precise and careful. Picked up her tea, Earl Grey, always Earl Grey, and left the office. Her footsteps faded down the hall. I stood in the hardware store parking lot, holding my phone, watching that footage 3 times through. Each viewing, something else broke inside me. Not my heart, that had already shattered. This was something deeper, the foundation I'd built my life on, crumbling to dust. The betrayal wasn't just the money, wasn't even losing the land. It was that she'd never loved me, not once, not ever. 40 years of performance, of calculation, of patient, methodical hatred disguised as devotion. My hands shook as I forwarded the video to Patsy. Added one line, "We need to move faster. They're together, have been for years." Her response came back in 30 seconds. "Come to the office, now. Bring everything." The hardware store door chimed. Someone called my name. I didn't turn around, just walked to my truck, started the engine, drove away from the parking lot and the store and the town where everyone thought they knew who I was, drove toward the only person left who might believe me. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop open. The camera footage paused on Laura's face. The frame caught her mid-sentence. 40 years pretending to love a boring, simple man, her expression somewhere between satisfaction and contempt. The refrigerator hummed in the corner. Outside, March rain tapped against the windows, that cold spring rain that's more ice than water. My phone showed 11:47 p.m. I'd been sitting here for 3 hours. The evidence folder sat beside the laptop. Everything organized, labeled, time-stamped, the forged permits, the power of attorney forms. The camera footage. 3 separate videos now, each one worse than the last. Mother's cassette tape converted to digital, photos from the barn safe, bank statements showing Laura's hidden account, fed by small transfers over years, death by 1,000 cuts, too small to notice until you added them up. Enough to destroy them both. Completely. Publicly. Forever. My finger hovered over Patsy's number. 1 call. That's all it would take. Set the mediation for next week. Invite the congregation. Reverend Birch had already agreed to host it at Fellowship Hall, said the church could be neutral ground. Play the videos. Watch their faces as the community saw what they really were. But something stopped me. Not mercy. Not forgiveness. Just the weight of what I was about to do. Dale was my brother. I'd held him when he was born. Taught him to fish, to drive, to read a survey map. He'd been my best man. Stood beside me when I married Laura. 43 years ago, when the world still made sense. And Laura, 40 years of my life. The woman who'd slept beside me, who'd nursed me through pneumonia, who'd been there when our son— I couldn't finish the thought. Our son, the boy we'd lost. 25 years ago, the tractor accident that took him. I'd blamed myself. Laura had held me through it, told me it wasn't my fault, that accidents happen, that grief would fade. Had she been pretending then too? Had she calculated even that? Measuring how much comfort to give, to keep me dependent, keep me grateful, keep me blind. The phone rang. Patsy, I answered. You still up? Her voice was tired. She'd been working late too. Can't sleep. Russell, I need to know, are you sure about this? About the public reveal? Papers rustled on her end. Once we play those videos at the mediation, there's no taking it back. Everyone will know. The church ladies, the town, everyone they've smiled at for 40 years. It'll destroy them socially. Dale's business will collapse. Laura will be a pariah. Good. But you'll be the man who did it, who exposed his wife and brother in front of the whole congregation. She paused. Some people will say you're justified. Some will say you're cruel. Either way, you'll be defined by this moment for the rest of your life. I looked at Laura's face on the screen, at her smile, at the performance she'd perfected over 4 decades. What's the alternative? I asked. Private settlement. We present the evidence to them and their lawyers. Make it clear we have everything. They agree to walk away. Divorce, no assets, signed confession that prevents them from ever contesting. We avoid the public spectacle. You keep your dignity. They keep theirs. Barely. They plan to lock me in a nursing home. I know. They mocked my mother's memory. I know. 40 years, Patsy. She never loved me once. The silence stretched. Rain drummed harder against the windows. Somewhere in the house, a board creaked, settling in the cold. What would your mother want? Patsy asked quietly. I thought about that. About Mother's letter, her careful evidence gathering, her strategic silence. She'd known for years what Dale was, had documented it, preserved it, prepared it, but she'd never exposed him publicly, never shamed him in front of the church. She'd waited. Given me the tools, let me choose. She'd want the land protected, what I said. She'd want them gone. Beyond that, I rubbed my eyes. I don't know. Sleep on it. The mediation's set for next Friday. We have time. After she hung up, I sat there in the kitchen quiet. The laptop screen dimmed, went dark. My reflection appeared in the black glass. An old man, tired, alone at midnight, in a house too big for one person. I opened a new tab, typed in a search I'd been avoiding. Maura Holloway, Chicago, architect. Her firm's website came up. Professional photos. My daughter in a sharp suit, standing beside building models, shaking hands with clients. Successful, confident, gone from this place and everything it represented. Her email was listed at the bottom of the page. Contact for new projects. I clicked it, started typing. Maura, this is your father. I know we haven't spoken in years. I know you left for good reasons. But I need your help. Your grandmother left something for you, something important. I'm in trouble. The farm is in trouble. I'm not asking you to come home. I'm just asking you to listen. I'm sorry for everything, for all of it. I should have said that 20 years ago. Dad, I hit send before I could reconsider. The email disappeared into the digital void. Outside, the rain shifted to sleet. That sound against the windows like small stones, like the earth itself was trying to get my attention. The barn safe. Mother's code, Maura's birthday. Not random, not convenient. Mother had known I'd need my daughter for this, had planned for it, had left breadcrumbs leading me back to the one person I'd let slip away. My phone buzzed. Email notification. Maura's response came back in less than 5 minutes. I'm on a plane tomorrow. Don't do anything until I get there. M. Maura's rental car pulled into the driveway Saturday afternoon, a silver sedan, covered in road salt from the highway. I watched from the porch, my daughter, 40 years old, stepping out in a city coat that wouldn't survive one winter here. Her hair shorter than I remembered, her face harder. She stood by the car for a moment, looking at the house, at the barn, at the fields stretching toward the tree line. 20 years since she'd been here. I saw it hit her, the weight of memory. Dad, she climbed the porch steps, didn't hug me, but she stopped close enough that I could smell her perfume. Something expensive. City smell. You look tired. It's been a long month. Tell me everything. And we sat at the kitchen table, same table where this all started, where the will was read, where Dale first planted the seeds. I spread out the evidence. The forged permits, the camera footage. Mother's letter. Maura read it all in silence, watched the videos without expression. When Laura's voice came through the laptop speakers, 40 years pretending to love a boring, simple man, I saw my daughter's jaw tighten. Jesus, she whispered when it was done. Your grandmother knew, I said. Left me this. I handed her the second letter, the one I'd found in the barn safe. The one addressed to her. Maura opened it, read. Her hands started shaking halfway through. Maura, if you're reading this, Russell found the safe and called you home. Good. He'll need you before this is over. 20 years ago, you left because Dale told you something. That your father had co-signed a failed business loan that cost your college fund. That he'd gambled your future on a bad investment and was too proud to admit it. Dale lied. Your father never signed that loan. Dale forged his signature, just like he's forged everything else. I found the proof in 2005, bank records, loan documents, all of it. Dale stole that money, not Russell. I never told you because you were already gone, already building your new life. I thought bringing you back into this mess would only hurt you more. I was wrong. Families shouldn't be built on lies, even protective ones. The barn safe has the evidence. Show your father. Then decide if he deserves a second chance. Grandma Maura set the letter down carefully, stared at it. Her voice came out small, broken. He told me you lost the money in some investment scheme, that you were too ashamed to admit it. That's why I left, why I stopped calling, why I... She looked at me. I blamed you for 20 years. I know. You never defended yourself, never told me the truth. I didn't know the truth, not until now. She stood abruptly, walked to the window. Her shoulders shook. When she spoke again, her voice was steel. "Where's the barn safe?" We found everything Mother had preserved. The 2005 loan documents with Dale's forged signature, bank statements showing him redirecting the money to his own accounts, a timeline Mother had constructed, dates, amounts, patterns spanning decades. And one more thing, hidden in the bottom of the safe, wrapped in oilcloth, grandfather's survey transit, the old brass instrument he'd used to map this property in 1943. Mother had kept it pristine, protected, waiting. Maura lifted it out carefully, ran her fingers over the engraved plate. "Property of John Holloway, surveyor." "Grandma taught me to use this," she said quietly. "When I was 12, before everything fell apart. She said precision was a family trait, that we measured twice because the land remembers mistakes. And she left it for you." Maura looked at me. "The forged birth survey permit Dale filed. Did anyone verify the property lines?" "The county approved it, based on Dale's measurements. But what if his measurements were wrong?" She carried the transit to the workbench, set it down. "I'm an architect, Dad. I know survey fraud when I see it. If Dale subdivided that northeast 40 without proper verification, if the boundaries don't match the original deed..." She smiled, grim, determined. "Then his permit is void, and we can prove it. Can you resurvey it? I can do better. I can testify as a licensed professional that Dale's plat is fraudulent. That'll destroy his case and his credibility." She looked out the barn door toward the fields. "When's the mediation?" "Friday, Fellowship Hall. Reverend Birch is hosting." "Good, I'll be ready." Friday arrived cold and clear. Spring fighting through the last gasps of winter. Daffodils blooming by Mother's grave. Mud in the driveway. Early robins in the maple trees. The air smelled different. Not quite warm, but not frozen either. Something breaking open. Fellowship Hall filled early. Word had spread, small towns being what they are. The mediation was supposed to be private, but Reverend Birch had quietly mentioned it to a few church ladies, and they'd mentioned it to everyone else. By 1 o'clock, the hall was packed. Pews filled with faces I'd known my whole life. Wade Kittredge near the back, arms crossed, watching. Gene Kroger and Mavis Teller in their usual spot, whispering. Farmers I'd worked beside for 40 years, business owners from Main Street. The county clerk who'd helped me find the forged permits, her expression neutral, but her presence significant. Dale arrived at 1:15 with his lawyer, some slick young guy from Columbus in an expensive suit. Laura came separately, playing the devoted wife, her face arranged in concerned sympathy. She touched my shoulder as she passed. "Russell, I hope we can settle this reasonably." Her hand felt like ice through my shirt. Maura sat beside me at the front table, Patsy on my other side. The laptop closed in front of us, waiting. Reverend Birch called the room to order. "We're here to mediate a family matter regarding the Holloway estate. Let's begin with prayer." The prayer felt longer than usual, my heart hammered against my ribs. Last chance to stop this. Last chance to take the private settlement, to let Dale and Laura slink away without public destruction. I thought about Mother, about her patient documentation, about the safe she'd left, the code she'd chosen, about the letter to Maura, bringing her home. This wasn't just about me, it was about truth. About the land, remembering who loved it and who tried to sell it. About stopping Dale from doing this to anyone else. The prayer ended. Silence filled the hall. "Mr. Holloway," the Reverend said. "You called this mediation, please proceed." I stood, pulled out Mother's field notebook, the worn leather cover, her handwriting on every page, 50 years of precision. "My mother taught me something," I said, my voice carried in the quiet hall. "She said measure twice, cut once. She said precision matters. She said the land remembers who loved it and who just wanted to profit from it." Dale shifted in his seat. His lawyer leaned over, whispered something. I opened the notebook, read aloud from the last page. "This is dated 2 weeks before she died. Russell, trust the paper trail, check county records, PM." I looked up. She knew what was coming, knew what you'd planned. Russ, this is unnecessary," Dale started. "She left me evidence." I nodded to Patsy. She opened the laptop. The projector hummed to life, throwing light against the white screen we'd set up. The first image appeared, the forged survey permit. My signature, almost mine, but not quite. Gasps rippled through the congregation. "This permit was filed 8 months ago," I said, "subdividing 40 acres of family land. My signature at the bottom. Except I was in Columbus that day. Medical appointment, my wife drove me." I clicked to the next image. The power of attorney forms. More signatures, more forgeries. These were filed without my knowledge, giving my wife full medical and financial authority, setting the stage for a competency hearing that would let them have me committed. The room erupted in whispers. Dale stood. "This is slander. I'm trying to help my brother, and he's..." "Sit down, Dale." Reverend Birch's voice cut through the noise. "Let him finish." I nodded to Patsy again. The first video started playing. Laura and Dale in my office. Their voices clear, damning. Once he's placed, the power of attorney kicks in automatically. We split it 60-40. The room went silent. Deathly silent. I could hear the projector fan, the creak of the old wooden pews, someone's strangled breath. The second video. Laura alone, on the phone with Dale. 40 years pretending to love a boring, simple man, but God, the payoff's going to be sweet. I couldn't look at her. Couldn't watch her face as the congregation saw what she was. I kept my eyes on the screen, on the evidence, on the truth Mother had taught me to trust. The third video, Laura forging my signature, coaching Dale. You're the face, I'm the brain. Stick to the script. When it ended, the silence was absolute. No whispers, no movement, just the weight of revelation crushing down on everyone there. Laura's face had gone white. Dale's lawyer was packing his briefcase, eyes on the exit. There's one more thing, I said. Looked at Maura, nodded. My daughter stood. Carried grandfather's transit to the front of the room like it was sacred. Set it on the table where everyone could see. My name is Maura Holloway, she said, her voice steady, professional. I'm a licensed architect specializing in land development. My grandmother asked me to verify the survey work used in Dale's subdivision permit, and then she pulled out documents. Official-looking, stamped, certified. I resurveyed the Northeast 40 using my great-grandfather's original benchmarks. Dale's plat is off by 3 degrees. His boundary lines don't match the legal description in the deed. His permit, she held it up, is fraudulent, likely intentionally so, to maximize the developable acreage and increase the sale price. She set the transit down with a solid thunk. The land remembers, she said, and the measurements don't lie. Dale was on his feet now, backing toward the door, his lawyer already gone. This is insane. You people are insane? I was trying to help. Help yourself to $2 million, Wade Kittredge's voice from the back. He stood. Same way you helped yourself to my 8,000. Same way you've been helping yourself to this town for 40 years. Others stood. Farmers Dale had cheated. Business owners he'd manipulated. One by one, they rose. Laura grabbed her purse, her face a mask of fury and humiliation. Started for the door. Mrs. Holloway, Reverend Birch's voice stopped her. I think you owe this congregation an explanation. She turned. Met my eyes across the room. For just a moment, I saw something flicker there. Not remorse, not shame, just cold rage that her performance had finally ended. I owe you nothing, she said, and walked out. Dale followed. The door slammed behind them. The room exhaled, collective, stunned. Jean Kroger was crying. Mavis Teller stared at the empty doorway like she'd seen a ghost. Wade nodded once, grim satisfaction on his weathered face. Reverend Birch stood. I think this mediation is concluded. Patsy closed the laptop, gathered the documents, looked at me with something that might have been pride. Maura's hand found mine under the table, squeezed once. Outside, through the fellowship hall windows, I could see spring breaking through, lilacs blooming, warm light on the old stained glass, the world continuing, indifferent to the small human catastrophes playing out in its churches. I'd won, completely, publicly, forever, so why did I feel so empty? The congregation filed out slowly, uncertain. Some stopped to grip my shoulder, murmur words I didn't quite hear. Others avoided my eyes, embarrassed they'd believe the rumors, that they'd doubted me. Wade stayed until the end, helped fold the chairs, said nothing, but nodded once more before leaving. That nod meant more than any speech could have. Reverend Birch approached as Patsy packed the laptop. Russell, I'm sorry. I should have seen. You saw what they wanted you to see, I said. Everyone did. Dale and Lorraine won't be welcome in this church again. The board will meet tomorrow, but I think the decision's already made. He looked old suddenly, tired. 40 years I've known them, married them, baptized there. He stopped, looked away. I'm sorry for your loss. All of it. After he left, it was just Maura, Patsy, and me in the empty hall. Afternoon light slanted through the stained glass, painting the floor in colors. Red, blue, gold. Dust motes drifted in the beams. What happens now? Maura asked. Patsy pulled out her legal pad. Dale's business will collapse within the week. Word's already spreading. His dealership was leveraged. He owes more than it's worth. Bankruptcy, probably. Laura loses everything in the divorce. No alimony, no assets. She signed documents that constitute fraud. She'll be lucky to avoid criminal charges. Will she face charges? Up to the county prosecutor. I'll recommend it. Elder financial abuse, fraud, forgery, multiple felonies. Patsy clicked her pen. They'll both leave town. They'll have to. There's nothing left for them here. As I looked around the empty hall, at the pews where they'd sat for 40 years, at the altar where they'd taken communion, where they'd prayed, or pretended to pray at the place where their masks had finally shattered. "When can I go home?" I asked. "Now, if you want. It's over, Russell. The land's yours. Protected. They can't touch it." Maura drove me. Neither of us spoke much on the short drive to the farmhouse. Her rental car smelled like air freshener and rental companies. Not like home, not like anything real. She parked in the driveway but didn't turn off the engine. "I should get back to Chicago. I have a presentation Monday." "Stay," I said. "Just tonight, please." She looked at the house. At the porch where I'd watched her grow up, at the barn where grandfather had taught her to use the transit, at the fields, waiting for spring planting. "One night," she said finally, turned off the engine. That evening, we planted the corn. Late for it, but not too late. The soil was warm enough now, soft enough. Maura found her old work boots in the mudroom, still there after 20 years, and pulled them on. They fit. We used grandfather's cedar, the old mechanical one that required 2 people, one to guide, one to drop seed. The rhythm came back easy, walk, drop, walk, drop. The evening air smelled like turned earth and coming rain. Good for seedlings. "You could stay," I said halfway down the first row. "Not forever, just longer. Help with the planting. See it through spring." Maura was quiet for 3 more paces. "I have a life in Chicago." "I know. I have projects, deadlines, a career I built from nothing." "I know that too." She stopped walking, looked at the field, half planted, stretching toward the tree line where the sun was setting gold and amber. "This place broke my heart, Dad. I couldn't wait to leave it. Couldn't imagine staying." "And now?" "Now." She bent down, picked up a handful of soil, let it run through her fingers. "Now, I don't know. Grandma's letter. Finding out Dale lied about the college fund. Seeing you stand up there and fight back." She looked at me. "You were never the weak one. I was wrong about that. You were young. He lied. That's on him, not you." Still, she wiped her hands on her jeans, picked up the seed bag. "Let's finish this row, then we'll talk." We planted until the light failed. The first green shoots would show in 2 weeks, maybe 3. Come June, the field would be tall and full. Come September, harvest, the land would remember. It always did. Inside, Maura made coffee while I washed the field dirt from my hands. The kitchen felt different with her in it. Less empty, less like a museum of a life that used to exist. "I can stay a week," she said, handing me a mug. "Help you sort through things. Grandma's estate, getting Laura's name off the bank accounts. All the legal aftermath. And after that," she smiled. Small, careful. "After that, we'll see. Maybe I visit more. Maybe I take some remote work. Maybe..." She looked out the window at the fields. "Maybe I remember why Grandma loved this place enough to fight for it. She'd be glad you came home." "Oh, I'm glad too." She raised her mug. "To Grandma, to Precision, to the paper trail." I clinked my mug against hers. "To the land, remembering." We drank our coffee in comfortable silence. Outside, the first stars appeared. Spring peepers started their chorus from the pond. Somewhere distant, a barn owl called, the sounds of home, of survival, of something ending and something else beginning. Tomorrow, Dale's dealership would close. Laura would pack her things, leave in the night probably, unable to face the town in daylight. The church ladies would gossip for months. The story would become legend, the quiet man who fought back, who won, who kept his land. But tonight, the house was warm. My daughter was home. And the field we'd planted together would grow, come summer, into something good. That was enough. 3 weeks later, I sat on the porch at dawn with my coffee. The rain gauge showed 2 inches from last night's storm. Good for the seedlings. I opened Mother's field notebook, wrote the date, the weather, the first report of growth in the Northeast 40, continuing her work, keeping the record. The daffodils I'd planted on her grave were blooming now, yellow and bright against the gray stone. Maura had been there yesterday, left fresh flowers. She'd extended her stay twice, said her firm could handle things remotely for a while. Said maybe she'd look at properties nearby, keep a place for weekends. We'd see. Dale's dealership sold at auction last week. Wade bought some of the equipment, paid pennies on the dollar, said it felt right. Laura left town the day after the mediation, forwarded no address. Someone saw her at a bus station in Columbus. That was the last anyone heard. The land remembers who loved it and who tried to sell it. Mother was right about that. Right about checking the paper trail, about precision, about measuring twice. They thought silence was surrender. Turned out it was just preparation. From the barn I heard Maura's voice, talking on the phone with a client. She'd set up a temporary office in the tack room, said the quiet helped her think. Said maybe architecture and farming weren't so different. Both about building something that lasts, both about understanding the land beneath. The sun cleared the tree line, warming the porch boards. The fields stretched green toward the horizon. Grandfather's transit sat on the table beside me, brass catching the light. Maura wanted to teach her niece to use it someday, if she ever had kids. Pass it down. Keep the precision. Some battles you win with noise. This one I won with receipts, a camera, and my mother's warning from the grave. But the real victory wasn't in the winning, it was in the planting, in the staying. In the morning, coffee in the rain gauge, and the field notebook that would outlast us all. The land remembers, and now so would I.